Good evening. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to all the viewers who join us now. And welcome to our panelists. Thank you for participating in this conference on the theme, Peace Begin With Us, Together We Can. In fact, we are celebrating the International Day of Peace, as you know, every year on the 21st of September. Every year it's a different theme. So this year the theme is End Racism, Build Peace. So this International Day of Peace was established in 1981. And every year this is the opportunity to celebrate peace and somehow make an effort everywhere to remember that we should be in peace and live as one family under God. So welcome everyone again. I will be your moderator this evening. My name is Rémi Taupier. I'm originally from France, but I've been living in St. Lucia now for 25 years. And I'm the director of the Universal Peace Federation chapter in St. Lucia, and also the coordinator for the International Interreligious Association for Peace and Development. So this evening, this conference is the fruit, in fact, of a friendship between the Lions Club and the Universal Peace Federation. In the last 3 years, the Lions Club and the Universal Peace Federation have been organizing together a peace march in Bridgetown. So this is great. I don't know, I think everybody knows about the Lions Club, but in case I can say the Lions Club International is an international non-political organization established originally in 1916 in Chicago, Illinois, America, by Melvin Jones. And it has over 46,000 local clubs and more than 1.4 million members in more than 200 countries around the world. Amazing. So anyway, the Lions Club is very famous for their spirit of service all around the world. And the other organization is the Universal Peace Federation. It's an international organization with consultative status in the United Nations. It has chapter in 170 nations. It was founded by Reverend Sun Myung Moon and his wife, Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon. And when Reverend Moon passed away 10 years ago, she continued to guide the work of the Universal Peace Federation. And she has been working very hard to bring peace, even in the most difficult places, like for the reunification of North and South Korea, or even in the Middle East, to try to bring together and reconcile Jews and Christians and Muslims, and especially to build bridges between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So, and she has been really bringing people, head of states and the highest level to meet and discuss in conferences, international conferences. So she's really working very hard. This is my joy and honor to invite our first panelist today. Is Dr. Charles Young. He is the regional president of the Universal Peace Federation for Central America and the Caribbean. He is also president of the Washington Times Foundation. And he served as vice chair of the board of directors of the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut, America. and as vice president of the Sun Moon University in Korea. And for many years, he has led the Universal Peace Federation Middle East Peace Initiative. I just spoke about bringing together the Jews and Christians and Muslims and Druze to cooperate together. And he is also the founder of the ACLC, the American Christian Leadership Conference, that bring Christians of all the various faiths together to really unite the body of Christ. So we are very happy and honored. Let's join me to welcome Dr. Yang with a round of applause.
Thank you for your generous introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, panelists. I'm very honored and happy to join this special Zoom conference with Caribbean leaders, especially we respect Lions Club. So we, UPF, as a newly NGO related to United Nations, we are happy to work together with you and other NGOs as well. Actually, today is very special day. The UN designates as an International Day of Peace. As we heard, that resolution passed in 1981 as a day of International Day of Peace. And each year, the UN made some theme. This year's theme is the end of racism and building peace. So I want a little address about the racism. As we know, there are 5 racial kind of categories in the world: the white, black, or African American, the Asian, so Native American, even Alaska Native, and even Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander as well. And I'm living in Maryland near Washington, D.C. There are 65 millions of Latin Americans living in North America. And beside 43 the Black Americans. So Latin American getting more and more rapidly increase. As we know, in the past, one of the serious issue and problem was racial discrimination, racial issues. So when Father Moon and Mother Moon came to America in 1971, they found one of the most serious barriers is between black and white racial issue. So they stood up at the front line to tear down the walls between these issues. So we know the past history, but now everything should clean up and should uplift the human right, and as well as, you know, all men and women are equal under one family under God. Especially for this special commemoration date, Secretary General of UN, Honorable Antonio Guterres, has said, racism continues to poison institutions, social structures, and the everyday life in every society. It continues to be a driver of persistent inequality, and it continues to deny people their fundamental human rights. It destabilizes societies, undermines democracy, though the legitimacy of government and the linkages between racism and the gender inequality are unmistakable. So as conflicts continue to erupt across the globe, causing people to flee, we have seen race-based discrimination as borders. As COVID-19 keeps attacking our communities, we have seen how certain racial groups have been hit much harder than others. As the economies suffer, we have seen hate speech and violence directed at racial minorities. So we all have a role to play in fostering peace and taking racism as a crucial way to contribute. We can work to dismantle the structures that entrench racism in our midst. We can support movement for equality and human rights everywhere. So we can speak out against hate speech, both offline or online. We can promote anti-racism through education and reparatory justice. So wherever we see racism, we must condemn it without reservation, without hesitation, without qualification. The Secretary General said. As we well know, the Honorable Martin Luther King Jr. is the hero and the champion against racism and the nonviolent resistance movement. So he gave a historical monument speech in 1963 in Washington, D.C. So I have a dream speech. I want to share some few highlight sentences with you today. Dr. King said, "It is deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heart of the injustice, sweltering with the heart of heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join bands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. This is our hope. And this is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jungling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to even jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. Let us give him a big round of applause to Dr. King. So UPF, we made a peace declaration for the International Day of Peace in 2009. And we have 4 pointers that we made. So first, human conflict and the resort to arms and weapons have their roots in the breakdown of human relationships and the human failure to live up to our highest ideals and aspirations. Violence is a symptom of a moral and spiritual failure. If we are to eliminate violence and weapons of mass destruction, we must commit ourselves to a moral and spiritual awakening. The second, lasting peace is secure not only through the reduction of nuclear arms, but more importantly, by the growth in solidarity among the whole human family and the recognition that we are all brothers and sisters. We share a common spiritual and moral heritage. We are one family under God. It is this understanding that gives rise to the collective will to put an end to violent conflict. The third, being the basic building block of society, the family serves as a primary school of ethics and should be the school where we learn to love, respect, and serve others by strengthening marriage and family. So we can educate our children to respect all people, thereby establishing a culture of peace. One humanity learns to resolve conflict without weapons. Once humanity learns to resolve conflict without weapons, massive resources can be relocated for human development. The fourth, laws alone cannot change the culture of violence. Transformation must be undergirded by substantial educational programs aimed at promoting character education, conflict resolution, and the cultural service and peace. Men and women who are taught to fulfill their moral obligations and responsibilities toward others will respect and live for the greater good and fulfillment of others. The Universal Peace Federation thereby resolves to join the United Nations to declare the September 21st as the International Day of Peace. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, in this very day of International Day of Peace, let us remind the importance of how can we live together? How can we recognize each other as one family under God, beyond race, color, and culture? So nowadays, although we are differences and distance each other, but impact immediately. So as we see the Ukraine, since Ukraine war broke out, that influenced not only just Ukraine, Russia, entire world. So physically and spiritually. So recently I brought one of Ukraine family to Washington via Poland and Germany and Mexico. It was, incredible trial and tribulation. Now they are in safe. But over 13 million families actually replaced their home. Almost half in domestic, they have to move to other places. Another, half out of country. So they become refugees and everywhere, they are incredible, miserable situation. So as we are going to address today, the peace started with me, with us, with our family. Family is the cornerstone and the fundamental, for peace. Once again, we have great, peace. Nations, all, Caribbean nations are in peace. There's no strugglings, I believe. But still, we have to watch the whole world as a one picture and one family. Once again, thank you for your joining, and let us have heard great commenters and great suggestions, advice, and address from our respected panelists. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yang. We appreciate these few words of inspiration and to remind us that we should be like one family under God. And in fact, God is colorblind. So thank you very much. And now it's my pleasure to invite our next panelist, Lion Nicolas da Costa. So Lion, you can bring, yes. Lion Nicolas is the district governor, sub-district 60B for the Lionistic year 2022-23. He first entered Lionism as a young Leo in the Cayman Black Alpha Leo Club in 2007. He currently manages a multi-million-dollar residential property in Grand Cayman and is the content and communications coordinator in the office of the Premier of the Cayman Islands. So let's welcome Lion da Costa with a round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Guests, colleagues, and my fellow Lions and Leos that are online watching. Thank you so much for being here today for this very special event, the Virtual Peace Rally. As the District Governor for Sub-District 60B for Lions in the English and Dutch-speaking Caribbean, I am honored to have been given this opportunity to speak with you all at what I am sure will be a very memorable webinar and peace event. Thank you to those joining from around the world, from as far as New York to as close as Jamaica. Your presence is especially important as we enter this key interaction on fostering global peace. I would also like to give a very special thank you to Mr. Elisier Area and Dr. Charles Yang from the Universal Peace Federation in Costa Rica for managing and facilitating this most worthwhile webinar series. The International Day of Peace was originally established in 1981 by the United Nations General Assembly, who in 2001 voted to make this day a period of nonviolence and ceasefire around the world. As you all may know, the 2022 theme for this year is End Racism, Build Peace. This year is particularly significant as it's been 20 years since the declaration of the UN resolution on the Program of Action on a Culture of Peace. The culture of peace the UN has constructed includes two integral factors: eliminating all forms of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance, and advancing understanding, tolerance, and solidarity among all civilizations, peoples, and cultures, including towards ethnic, religious, and linguistic minorities. Now, as Lions, we know that diversity is what keeps us going in our organization. Diversity is what allows us to be so beautifully different, but perfectly human at the same time. When I think of the UN's theme, End Racism, Build Peace, I can't help but think of one of the Lions' most pertinent and meaningful campaigns, and that is Kindness Matters. Racial prejudice does not have a place in this world, nor does gender equality, nor does violence, nor does abuse or other similar disruptions that poison our institutions and societies today. Peace is the only battle worth fighting for. Peace does have a place in our world. It is meant to be in our world. Now, inner peace is something that exists in all of us. Focusing on our differences and highlighting them as human incompatibility only serves to divide us further. Great things can only be achieved when we are united, which is why our organization depends so much on the incredible diversity of our members around the world. But peace is not something that can be achieved by ceasing fire or laying down arms, nor is peace a universal concept amongst people. Peace is an individual feeling. What peace and serenity is to me may not be the same to another. But one thing we do know for certain to be true is this, that humans can only achieve world peace together. The past few years have been challenging for all of us, every single one of us. And across the Caribbean region and the rest of the world, we have been disconnected, isolated, and faced many hardships due to the pandemic, socioeconomic struggle, and other forces outside of our control. However, despite these challenges, we as Lions and Leos continue to make a positive impact on our communities. Fostering a community of peace is something we can control. We all have a role to play in fostering peace, to join efforts to increase compassion, extend love, and extinguish hatred. When we come together to serve our community, we create a dynamic force for good. More important, a dynamic force for peace. So when you find yourself thinking, well, how can you make peace with yourself and others? Think about who loses when you win. Now, as we know, being a lion is about leading by example and improving the world and ourselves through empathy, compassion, and most of all, kindness. One of my favorite quotes about peace actually comes from Mr. Albert Einstein, famous scientist and indeed an anti-violence advocate, who said, and I quote, "Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding," end quote. In conclusion, every one of us has been given the same choice, and that choice is this. You have the choice to make society more just and peaceful, or you have the choice to make society more unjust and warlike. By finding and creating peace within our own minds and helping others do the same, we can achieve peace in this world. A peaceful mind is powerful. A mind filled with anger is weak. Peace starts with me. It starts with you, and it starts with us. It is not just within our own communities. It's a global effort. And in today's global village, we as Lions push beyond traditional boundaries and leave marks in distinctive ways. To us, kindness matters. Peace matters, not just at home, but around the world. And remember this, do good for others, and it will come back to you in unexpected ways. Cultivate positive thoughts, be of help and support in times of darkness when people need us most. And just when you think that peace is disturbed, that your peace is disturbed, the kindness in which you have given will return. Together, we can all strive to be ambassadors of peace. And as my theme this year for the Lions program in my district says, together we are stronger, and together we can. I want to thank you all for your time and wishing you all a blessed and most enjoyable webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Lion Da Costa. And especially, I like what you said. We should not be afraid of the diversity. You said it's beautifully different, but perfectly human. So wonderful for your generous words and your generous speech, inspiring us to really become better person. Thank you very much. And I'd like to introduce now our next panelist. She's Dr. Anne Higgins. She's the president of the World Dance Council of Nassau, UNESCO Nassau section. She's a dancer, a choreographer, author, and producer. She has been working the area of the performing arts to over 50 years. She is also the executive assistant to the Office of the First Lady of the Bahamas. It's my pleasure to welcome you, Dr. Higgins. Let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here. And of course, protocol has already been established. So I thank all of you for what you've already contributed and what you will be contributing. And I'm just excited to just be a part of this body to share on peace. We see that peace begins with us, and together we can. Well, first of all, I just want to say that in the word peace, inner peace or peace of mind really refers to a state of being mentally and spiritually at peace, with enough knowledge and understanding to keep oneself strong in the face of discord or stress or war, things that are going on out of our control. Being at peace is considered by many to be healthy and the opposite of being stressed or anxious. And most of us choose to be happy and be peaceful. Nobody wants to be stressed out and nobody wants to be out of whack. Now, we've heard Mr. DaCosta talked about a peace. And we know that there are different types of peace. Psychological peace, which is the comfort within. And then we have the relational peace, harmony among humanity. And that is what we are right here striving towards, saying that, listen, we can. And if we come together, we can make it happen. We can choose to be at peace with our brothers and choose to be at peace with each other. And if we choose that, we can. And then third, there's spiritual peace. Now, that peace is between God and man. And that's the part I love the most, because we will find ourselves struggling to be at peace with someone who is just crazy, out of their mind, and refuse to forgive and be at peace because of what you said about them or what they've done to you or what you have done to them. But when we're dealing with the spiritual peace, that is the peace that breaks down those walls, break down the ability of those who are striving, don't want to give it up, but because of the power of that peace, they yield because they want that comfort. I read in Philippians 4:7, it talks about the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. It guides your heart and your mind. God's and no falling out. It guides your mind that you're in perfect peace and you're not losing your mind on a mental institution. This peace of God regulates you. You have to understand that this peace will allow you to make the right decisions. When we find ourselves making decisions when we are not at peace, we get ourselves in trouble, especially when there's confusion all around us. People do not have comfort within, will always be the person to bring confusion among others and not be at peace because they don't have peace within themselves. The scripture says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And when you become a peacemaker, you will always find yourself blessed. So here it is that we who are children of God, we have to take the first initiative and we have to step out. To have peace, you must know the one who gives peace. And that's reality. When you know the one that gives it, you will have assurance that all is right in your soul. And even if you can't resolve all the issues affecting you, or predict the outcome of anything at this point. God, peace, provides the assurance that God is still in control. A lot of times when we're out of control, we feel like everybody else is out of control, but no, no, no. He is always in control. Now, we talked about those three different types of peace, but one of the peace that we talk about is relational peace. I think that's what we really are focusing on, that if we can have relationship and we don't have to be warring against each other, the world will be a better place. It is always important for us to have harmony among humanity. Now, remember, we work with people on our jobs, we go to church, we meet people. As a matter of fact, we're here on the set introducing ourselves to each other and meeting some of us for the first time. We're meeting each other. And we have people living around us in our community. Everywhere we go, we will always run into people. But we must be peacemakers in the world that is full of confusion, because everyone is going to be different. And I need you and you need me. As a matter of fact, we are all a part of God's family. And there's a song that goes that way. We are, I need you, you need me. But the fact is, we all need each other. Now, relational peace will cause us to be good in good health. That's the first thing. If you are not at peace, you're going to find yourself with high blood pressure, sugar diabetes. You're just going to be out of whack. And we can live long to fulfill our purpose in the earth once we are at peace with ourselves and peace with each other. Because we all were put here to fulfill our assignment in the earth. And we need each other. So we will have a positive mindset. And if we don't allow negativity to control us, then we'll find out that relational peace will cause us to have hope for the future and build a fortified relationship where we can trust each other. It will give us a better working environment and creativity to expose God's glory. And as a matter of fact, through the gift that he has given me. Well, my gift, as you've heard, is the gift of dance. So I bring peace through the creativity of what God has given me. And so I'm in a theater and I start to dance. As you sit there and look at me, you will be so peaceful because of the movement and the expression that is there. That the peace that comes while you're there, the same as a singer or a musician or an orchestra. This is where we go to relax and have peace in the midst of the arts. And so with other things, we relationally gather together and say, let's go to a movie. Let's go to a concert together. That's a relation next to me, and I don't want you around me. But then again, from relational peace, there's spiritual peace. Break down those words. There's a peace that transcends between God and man. And this is a peace that no one can give you but God, because peace is a gift from God. The question is, how can we now transcend this peace that is within us to the world that is crying out for peace? And that is the key, to be able to transcend this peace. And so many times every day as I run into young people that I deal with want to commit suicide, and they don't see why it's worth living. And they're trying to say, I don't want to live anymore. I want to die. I want to give up. So now I have to find a way to transcend the peace that is in me, that want to live and want to have life abundantly, and transcend it to them and say, you don't have to. Just a few days ago, I had the opportunity to do that. And now, the young lady is calling me. Are you okay? I just want to see, how was your day? Did you have a good day at work? This is the young girl that called me saying, I want to die. But I was able to transcend that peace to her to cause her to just want to live. We must move away from being selfish and be our brother's keeper. We are all made by God and for God. We are a family. We are one body of believers. You have a body and we have many parts. Like I got my hands, I got my feet, and I cannot, because My hands cannot say it's not a part of my body because it's not a foot. And my feet cannot say it's not a part of body because it's not a hand. Many members, but one body. And just as all of us are on this line today, we are many members, but we all are part of the body of God, the body of Christ, the family of God, but many members. And so, same as the functions, we all function differently. And because we function differently, we must care for each other and help each other by moving away from looking only after ourselves, but looking after each other. When your brother or sister hurt you and you don't understand what's going on, there must be some type of compassion. We must understand the brokenness, and we must avoid the harshness of not wanting to forgive and look at being peaceful. The peace of God brings out the joy of the Lord, which should be shared abroad in our hearts. And if you don't have this peace, you cannot release it. The people who are stressed out and oppressed and walking in darkness, we must share this peace with them. And the difference is, if they don't know and have not experienced it, we are the ones responsible for sharing this peace. A lot of people are committing suicide, becoming alcoholics, losing their mind, and trouble all around because they don't have this peace that can bring them joy to their soul. So together we can. Let's help change the world, our world around us, because we too was not at peace at one time. I don't know about you, but my life was drugs and alcohol and dancing as a topless lead dancer in the casino. I had no peace. I was searching for this peace in all kind of things and in all types of activities. I was searching for that peace. And when I found it, my whole life changed. And so I know that together we can. So let's help change the world, our world around us. God bless all of you, and thank you for this opportunity. And I love you, and you are my brother and sisters. And I love the peace that is among us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Higgins, for your enthusiasm and the passion. Really, we all get also passionate ourselves. And I just realized among all your functions, there is one I forgot, and I really apologize for that. You are also co-pastor of the Creative Christian Arts Ministries International. So how great it is. Thank you very much. And now I want to welcome our next panelist. He is Dr. Carlisle Goddard. Dr. Goddard is first Vice District Governor, Sub-District 68, of the Lionistic year 2022-23. He is a medical doctor. Dr. Goddard is not coming on the picture, on the screen.
Yes. Good evening.
No, just I did not finish, but I don't see you on the screen, so I wanted Eliezer.
I'm very much here.
Okay, so I finished. I did not finish. Just a moment, sorry. He is a medical doctor who specializes in diabetes and endocrinology. Despite his busy profession, Dr. Goddard finds time to serve those less fortunate with his home club, the Lions Club of Bridgetown. So let's welcome Dr. Goddard with a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much, Mr. Topier, Dr. Chan, my own district governor, Lion Nicholas, other distinguished panelists and leaders in peace. I thank you very much for this opportunity to share with you. After Dr. Ann is a really hard task to follow. That was so enlightening. I thought you were going to read my script as well, because I'm all ready to sit back and cheer you on. So if you want to go a bit longer, that's fine, you know. But I so enjoyed that, you know, and that speaks to exactly what we're here to talk about today. because peace has many different definitions, and it all depends on what angle you're looking at it. I know by the end of it, you need that type of inner peace to center you and help you to interact with all the exchanges that are occurring around you. Because as human beings, we are tactile, we're lovable, but we move with what happens around us because that emotional aspect of our being. And you know, your talk was so timely because it hits what I wanted to talk about, and that's the COVID pandemic. Because COVID was new to all of us. And so it took social beings and forced us to shut in. It made us less sociable. You know, when you can't go outside to interact, when you want to take your children down to the park and play and stretch your legs and say, no, we have to stay inside, we have to wear masks now, and we now have to be cautious of having our own friends over, and you can't even go and visit granny because you now can infect granny and all of that. That changed us. And like human beings, when we use our animal models, when an animal is threatened or trapped, it becomes defensive. And that element of defense is what breaks peace, because we want to survive at any means necessary. And to survive, you have to do what is necessary. And if that means moving from a place of peace to a place of instability to maintain your peace or regain your authority and your peace, that's exactly what we're about. So COVID did that to us. And we're now trying to find ourselves in this as I call it, post-pandemic, post-COVID era. COVID isn't over yet, but we can't stay suppressed. We need to start rising again as a nation, rising again as a people. And to do that, we need to find our ground again. And so we need to retake what was taken from us. And so how do we interpret that? Because from an individual point of view, I now have poverty. I no longer have a job. I don't have income to feed my family and so on, all because COVID for the last 2 years has suppressed me. It shut down my work. It stopped me from interacting. And so if I'm an individual who is so suppressed now, and I look at the fields and I see my neighbor with more than me, and I'm struggling to make ends meet, or I'm struggling to feed my family, where does that leave me? As sociable a neighbor as I was, jealousy has seeped in. Hunger has come. I can't feed my family. I can't protect my family. So that need to survive, that need to protect now takes over. And so a person of peace now is transferred or transformed to a person without peace. Because to protect my inner ones and my loved ones, I need to be more than I was before. And so that has now introduced an element of hostility, an element of jealousy, an element of social unrest amongst people living in the same community. And so now as we come out of COVID, what's the first thing we see? Increase in violence. There's increase in gun violence. There's increase in stealing. There's increase of people just on the block now making noise for what? Something simple. This person taking the spot that I had before, something very trivial. Always because we now need to maintain that dominance that we have. So the alpha-ness of us needs to come out again. And if that is so, then where do we go from here? So inner peace now can't be inner peace because it's now broken, it's threatened. So we now as individuals now need to re-establish ourselves. Society now is different. My parents now look at me and say, you know, you were different from us when we were growing up. And now I am of the age where I can say that to my nieces, my nephews, you're so different. You know, we did things, we survived ourselves. Today's younger people, I use the word loosely, younger people, they're different from us because they don't have the social skills that we have. And I probably blame us and I blame my parents because our parents came from an era where they made sure that we got all that they didn't have. And in so doing, we are trying to do the same for our kids. But our kids are the recipient of the handout of what we have and what we don't want to have. So they have lost the ability to struggle for something or to work really hard for something because they're protected and shielded from that element of survival. So now they're not equipped with the survival modalities that our generation was a transitional generation for. So now there's increase in mental health illnesses amongst the current generation because they simply lack the evolutionary survival chain to say, how do I change the circumstance? How can I make better of what I have? Because they don't have the need to look hard or the need to struggle as hard for something, because now everything is given. You know, your family may have, or they may have access to, or you might have your grandparents donated something to you or give you something. So the current generation don't have that inner need to fight and struggle hard. So they're not as equipped as our generation was. So now that brings us to a point where we have to address the mental health and mental health issues with a different look. And so I find this piece thought very interesting, because part of peace, or part of attaining peace now, is how do we go forward dealing with mental health issues? And that has to be the discussion in the post-COVID era. And if you're not prepared to have that discussion, then we will not understand the underlying thread for all the increased violence and so on that is going to come about. Because to come out of COVID, people now need to be alphas again. They need to be dominant. They need to show they have survival skills. And that is going to threaten civilizations. We know it because people will now become pushed to get things that they want. And that need to survive will be so much stronger, because we're now being brought to a playing field where it's new to us. And being from a place where we had so much to having so little now, or having so little access to, the common thread of survival will be key. So society now needs to readjust. And so service clubs such as ours as Lions now need to look at how do we create, or how do we serve our community, because we now need to address mental health and mental health issues. We also need to ensure that society is protected going forward. So we now need to move away from just physical projects, but more connective social projects where we focus on mental health issues, and integrating society again. So let me stop here. Thank you for your time, and we can discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lion Goddard, for reminding us that we are still in a post-COVID time, but many people have been affected, and it's true, many people are suffering. We cannot deny. And so thank you for bringing the issue now of mental peace issues that we need also to address. Thank you very much. Now, our next panelist is Reverend Peter Oscar Phillips. Reverend Dr. Peter Oscar Phillips is a senior pastor and president of the Family Federation for World Peace of Barbados. He is a former president of Barbados National Peace Council. He is a lecturer, a counselor, theologian. He is a graduate of the Unification Theological Seminary. He is a regional lecturer on true family values, conflict resolution, and anger management. And for day-to-day life, he is ambulance driver with the Premier Health Institution of Barbados. Let's welcome Reverend Philip with a warm round of applause.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pierre. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, respected leaders and fellow panelists, friends, and those watching from afar. This opportunity gives me great pleasure to greet all of you on this International Day of Peace. As we gather in this forum under the theme, Peace starts with me. Together we can. As a religious teacher, it is painful watching our youth so embedded in violent crimes and the loss of lives due to gun violence, which seems to be a weekly habit across our region with no seemingly imminent solutions. Such has given us cause for concern and a great urgency for addressing. We discuss the desire for peace in various forums. But what does it mean to the hungry man on the streets, the mother with nowhere to call home, or the youth who cannot find a job? The time has come when the governments, civil society, and NGOs need to address these ills in our society and do what it takes to resolve them. In 1958, the short-lived West Indians Federation The three objectives of bringing the Caribbean together lost sight of its goals due to pride and selfishness on the part of some leaders, resulting in failure. Another attempt was made through CARICOM in 1973 to promote economic integration and cooperation among its members and to ensure that benefits are equally shared. This would have enabled the possibility of establishing a constructive people environment in the region. We all is in this together. From Cuba in the north to Trinidad in the south. What affects one affects all. State should act in accord for the benefit of its people. My dear friends, peace is not just a state we hope for, but the homeland we yearn for daily. Our thinking must be that all people are our brothers and sisters, regardless of color, race, nationality, or persuasion. We must think of all the world's problems as our own and have a pioneer spirit needed to resolve them. The struggle continues, and it does so primarily because the religious fraternities are distinctive in outlook and the internal fighting among the denominations of particular religions. It must be noted that in 2003, for the first time in the history of religion, Jews, Muslims, and Christians came together in Jerusalem for a rally of peace. It was strongly emphasized that attending God as our heavenly parent through mutual respect, cooperation, generosity, and forgiveness, while insisting that the restoration of the heart of humankind was a great way to bring about peace to humanity. This became the rallying cry of the gathering. What is so sad is that 25 years after the Cold War, the world, more than ever, is still suffering under conflict and divisions. Innocent lives lost and terrorism. Peace is not merely the absence of war, but also a state of mind. If you are not comfortable in your mind, then there cannot be any hope for peace. Peace begins with me. Individuals are at peace when there is no threat to existence. We can have peaceful societies and nations on such foundations. The demolition of the Berlin Wall in 1994 marked the reunification of the two Germanys. In a similar way, I do believe that the visit to North Korea by the founders of the Family Federation for Peace and Unification in 1991 has stimulated the desire for unification of the Koreas. This was a watershed moment. In the words of the Reverend Dr. Samuel Moon, the strategy for a peaceful reunification in which Korea can coexist cannot be achieved militarily, but culturally and economically. Therefore, good governance is essential. With the observation of the International Day of Peace is recognition that our civilization is more distant away from the ideal. This day was inaugurated by the UN to highlight the standard we have to achieve as a civil society, not simply a day of celebration. The UN, in the face of major powers of laws, is powerful in its administration of international justice. Powerless, in its administration of international justice, and to help foster the creation of solutions for a better society. I believe the observation of these international days, though good, should be more than a proclamation. Words without deeds are ineffective. Violent conflicts lead to distrust between people, destruction of the social fabric, and to trauma. If people do not deal with their own traumatic experiences and do not regain trust in each other, conflict will easily arise again. People need to learn new ways of nonviolence behavior, and intergenerational cycles of violence need to be broken. Sometimes working directly on peace and conflict is too sensitive. These initiatives tend to create separations. Bringing the different groups together on less sensitive topics of common interest is an effective way of breaking down stereotypes and creating common understanding between groups. Leaders, whether religious or political, all discuss methods to build peace. Yet the world set aside and watched the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, the loss of innocent lives, women and children slaughtered without just reason. On the regional level, The poorest and poverty-stricken country in our region is Haiti. We love our efforts at integration, but does it stop there? These methods are insufficient to alleviate the tensions that exist in our families and the region, and between families which are the root causes of much of the conflict we see today. Respected governments have a grave responsibility to maintain the social fabric of a society, encouraging higher levels of productivity and build economic stability. These pillars can go a long way in setting the path for peace in our islands. The graves of our forefathers cry in agony, watching the turmoil among our various islands advancing with no seemingly horizon in sight of peaceful solutions. But if it takes one step at a time, putting the necessary perspective in place, apathy, kindness, forgiveness, patience, and love, we will be looking at a better world tomorrow. However, where there's a will, there's a way. And I do believe that the Almighty God will one day show us his will. We must understand the significance of peace and why it is desirable. Education, economic stability, and environmental awareness are crucial in the development of a peaceful world. The cycle of conflict and violence is destructive to the human soul. It causes humankind to revert to its base instinct, where only the fittest and the strongest survives. We are one family under God. Our desire is to live progressively, expressing and experiencing his love. In the words of Martin Niemöller, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and excuse me, please. And I didn't speak out because I was not a Jew. Finally, they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. It is said that silence is golden, but there are times that we need to speak up and even shout out, especially for the awakening of a peaceful society. Let anyone pacify his conscience by the delusion that he can do no harm if he takes no part and forms no opinion. Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. He is not a good man who, without a protest, allow wrong to be committed in his name, and with the means which he helps to supply, because he will not trouble himself to use his mind on the subject. It depends on the habit of attending to and looking into public transaction, and on the degree of information and solid judgment respecting them that exist in the community. Whether the conduct of the nation as a nation, both within itself and towards others, shall be selfish, corrupt, and tyrannic, or rational and enlightened, just and noble. Peace begins with me. Together we can, with a grateful heart, advance in the presence of heaven, one heart, one love, one people. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and God bless you.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Reverend Philip. And also thank you for sharing, giving us a real taste of the Bajan frogs. I really enjoyed the nature harmonious sound of the Barbados frog and sharing this with the whole world. Thank you very much. And now our next and the last panelist, last but not least, is Dr. Kevin Greenidge. Dr. Greenidge has been a senior economic advisor to the Barbados government since May 2018. He is a career economic and financial specialist, having worked at the Central Bank of Barbados and the International Monetary Fund, where he is still engaged. Let's welcome Dr. Greenidge with a round of applause. Welcome, Dr. Greenidge.
Good evening, good night, and good evening to all. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join you on this very important day. We celebrate International Day of Peace. I've enjoyed the presentation thus far. Perhaps in my little few minutes, I can add something, hopefully, to the body of discussion and knowledge here. My expertise or my perspective come from one of economics. For the last 1.5 years, I've been advisor to the Prime Minister of Barbados on all economic matters. And even though it says economic and financial matters, I've been advisor on many issues in different directions. And indeed, what I want to do this evening is just reflect with that experience, also my experience of being at the International Monetary Fund and visiting many countries on various programs, both in the Caribbean and in Africa. I reflect on what I think the economic lenses that we look through and it is related to peace. Now, today, CNN brought out an article published by Kristalina Gioviani, who is the head of the International Monetary Fund. We all know the IMF. This is the top international financial institution in the world, the apex architecture financial institution. And it opens by saying, there will be people on the streets globally, unless steps are taken to protect the most vulnerable from inflation. And of course, she's referring to the conflict, the war, and the rising, escalating prices occasioned by the conflict in Russia, etc. And the fact that this is having such a severe fallout that people will be in the streets. Not in the streets dancing, merry-go-round thing, but in the streets protesting because there's hunger, there's suffering, there's conflict, there's no peace. And usually, and that's where I want to start my few thoughts. And permit me if I ramble a bit, because it's a new era for me. You can actually talk about finance, we talk about pricing, we talk about models, but I don't think we ever sit down and reflect on peace. But I come from a position that the economic literature says to you that countries that are peaceful have 20 times the economic prosperity we measure per capita GDP as countries that are not peaceful, war-torn, conflict countries. From my perspective, it's slightly different now. I want to do the reverse. I want to say that where there's no economic prosperity, there will likely be no peace. Because what is not prosperity? People got to eat, they got to feed, they got to provide for their families. And if you take away what I will want to put now for it as a basic human right, the right to have a reasonable, decent standard of living, to have clean water, to food, to be able to provide for your family. If you take that away, there will be an increase not only in peace of countries, fighting countries, but general social unrest, general increase in crime because of that basic human right. And I would like to put forward the idea that having a reasonable level of economic comfort where you can provide a basic necessary food and shelter should be viewed as the economic right. And those of us who are fortunate to be in the space where we can influence policy needs to be mindful of this. I listened to all the presentations today and they're really amazing. I remember bits from each one. I remember the good doctor talking about the COVID and the impact of the COVID and how it disproportionately affect the poor. It has pushed many persons below the poverty line. Persons who were just making it one paycheck, but we're okay, I'm kind of middle class, I have a car. Now they're below the poverty line. And at the same time, because of the need for countries to respond to the COVID pandemic by building hospitals and vaccination and things, they have very limited what we call fiscal space. But everybody in society is calling for help. Even those who can afford, everybody want relief from gas prices. Everybody want relief from increased prices. But policymakers and those who influence policy got to be reminded that the most vulnerable is who we should be targeting our assistance to. And in that regard, we each have, not only from a policy space perspective, but economic prosperity is one in which it needs to be trickled down. It's just not about governments providing, but about governments building safety, security net and shields to protect everyone, so that the most vulnerable, the young lady with 3 or 4 children who's single parent, the young man who can't find food to feed his family, that these people have an outlet. If not, they'll be forced onto the streets, they'll be forced into conflict, into crime, as they try to survive. I want to, and this is what, I want to look at it from that perspective, where the churches, the NGOs, and those in a position to influence policy, even to provide and help to improve, giving a further job, helping persons in neighborhood, community projects, etc. These are important and even critically important positions and tasks, especially when you have in economic downturns and where the economy is under pressure as it is currently at the moment. I reflect upon it and I think to myself that outside, I cannot think of a greater driver of social unrest and economic and lack of peace and conflict than lack of economic prosperity. I think there's an overlooked area we don't hear much talk about. You know, we here in Barbados, for example, we hear about escalating pockets of crime in certain areas. I, for one, have already view that this again reflects idleness, but also reflects persons in a lack, and therefore wanting to take from someone else what is necessary. And to deal with this, we need to be able to put in place policies that provide for all and for those who can't afford for themselves. So there's a responsibility not only at the policy level, but at the level of the community, the churches, the lions, which this group is. I am not a lion in that sense. There may be a tiger, but we need to be able to provide. You know, you don't have to, there are many instances where many of us has reached a stage where we are economically sufficient. And then we worry about our future, we worry about retirement, we worry about investment for our kids and our children and those to follow, but we don't see those around us who are suffering. Sometimes it is possible to pool resources to have a community response and take care of those because of the fallout. Here in Barbados, for example, our poverty, having those three poverty line have perhaps increased to almost 30%. It used to be much lower. And for us to have peace, we need to be able to remove that. But there's many limited resources to doing that. There are limited resources for government to move around, and there's so many wants and demands and calls. But we need to be mindful, and I think there's a bigger role that we individually, collectively, churches, NGOs, and individual organizations can do to further that. My part, for one, I am mindful of poverty. I am mindful of the impact it has on peace because of personal experiences. So it's really heartening for me to be able to share here some of my thoughts in this area. I think an institution and an established such an alliance have a role to play. And I want to encourage you to do that, but also from a perspective that if you know, there's this saying, if you teach a man to fish, he can provide for him and his family. We need to be able to collectively teach persons to fish. Sometimes all they need is a start. I know sometimes it's big as an economist and as an advisor, perhaps one of the most influential leaders in our time. It may tend to overlook what we might think as a smaller part of this whole work job we're into. But sometimes providing some person with some seed income that they can open I'm trying to keep it real here now, open a little canteen or open a food cart or plant some kitchen garden or do something can mean the difference. One person at a time, one family at a time, we can make a difference and do our part to increase and spread the news and make a more peaceful world by relieving the economic burdens that people are facing. Many people are suffering, but they're not crying out. Many people are suffering in silence. And I think there's a strong link between economic prosperity and peace or lack thereof. So that's my perspective. I just want to share it from the economist perspective in terms of what I think is there, what I think we can perhaps do collectively and individually. So thank you very much for listening to me as I ramble a few thoughts. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Greenidge, for bringing in an economic perspective and especially reminding us that unless we do it together, we cannot do it. But together, we can do it. So thank you very much for reminding us this. Dear panelists and all those who are viewing us, we are arriving at the end of this conference. It was wonderful to hear everyone. I don't know if you noticed, but really everyone has a different angle, brought some idea from different angle and seeing peace with different facets like that. I think this was very rich and very encouraging. I don't know, Dr. Young, would you like to say something at the end?
No, let us invite Gail. Why don't you comment about this? I just appreciate to all panels. Thank you so much for your joining. Sister Gail?
Yes, just being a Barbadian white woman and then seeing everybody here tonight, you know, with all those hearts and minds, the way they are, everybody wants better for everyone. And if it's true that if we all work together and see that we are all brothers and sisters, really, like even Mr. Greenidge there, my maiden name is Greenidge and it's spelled the same way. And my ancestors were from Foul Bay, St. Philip, and so were his. Is that right, Mr. Greenidge?
I'm from Foul Bay, St. Philip. So we are family, apparently.
We are family. It goes back, I don't know, 400 years or somebody somewhere was connected and we're all united. And anyway, it's just so nice to see everyone. And I'm so grateful for Nicola. We did 3 years of peace walks with the Lions Club, the UPF and Lions together. We really enjoyed each other and it's so nice to see you here again. And let's go forward working together. Thank you for the 2,500 invitations you sent out, Nicola, for all the Lions to join us tonight. That's a lot of people. And let's go forward and see what we can do for peace. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. Nicola, you have been also behind the scene working hard. Would you like to say something?
Oh, sure, of course. I never miss an opportunity to speak. Good evening, everyone. And I so want to thank all of you. I want to thank especially Gail and her husband from the Universal Federation for Peace right here in Barbados, the Barbados chapter, for answering the call to work together to reach out and do something for peace, even though we couldn't walk in the streets of Barbados this year. And I'm so grateful for all of you to come out and share today and to hear. And for those who are not aware, this recording will certainly be shared across YouTube. So you can go and have a look, share with your organization. And I am so grateful for the thought that went in and for your input. I know it was last minute for most of you. I would have reached out and you answered the call. My Lions, I always expect them to answer, even if I call at midnight. Thank you so much, Lion District Governor, Lion Nicholas, and Vice District Governor, Dr. Carlisle, who is always just a telephone call away. I want to thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Dr. Kevin, I know that you have had a long 2 days. You're still with the IMF mission here in Barbados, and I certainly want to thank you for taking the time and coming out and giving us your thoughts as it relates to economics and peace. Thank you so very much, Dr. Peter, and thank you so very much, Dr. Ann. I was here and ready to testify. And I certainly enjoyed every single thing I heard this evening, and I want to thank you. Let's do it again soon, very, very soon, and bigger and better. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you
Thank
very
you are a
much.
great speaker.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you. God bless.
Have a good night. Sleep
Thank you, sir.
well.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
so much.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Greeting from
Bye.
Costa Rica.
Thank you, LSL. Really good
Good
job
night,
today.
everyone. God's blessings, and
Welcome
please be
to
safe.
Costa Rica
Thank you.
anytime.
Cayman
Lions
Islands,
Club.
Bahamas, Barbados.
Yes, we do have quite a few online guests as
Thank you.
well.
Thank
Wanna
you,
thank them
Peter.
for coming out.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Dr.
It was
Hagin.
great night.